So the project in the picture you were looking at here is about the steering arm that goes on the front axle of a 66 or an 86 series International, and they are renowned for wearing out. And on this particular tractor that we're working on, it had enough slop that the tires can go one direction and the steering arms can go the other, and produce quite a wobble going down the road that would give just about anybody a stress stroke. So there's a couple different ways of going about repairing these. You can replace the whole entire assembly, and that's several $700 per side. Or there's a trick that somebody posted online, which is using JB Weld and going through and using it as a filler between the steering arm and the splines that it mounts to that wear out. So this video is just me going through and reinstalling those steering arms. I've already removed them. I've already replaced the bearings that go with the knuckle and everything else. That's a whole different topic aside. But this is everything you need to know of remove the steering arm and then JB welding it and going and replacing the steering arm. So I've tested this repair for a summer now since doing it. It works awesome. Tractor can go 18 miles an hour down the road with zero wobble, and it's quite worth the time to do. So follow along as we go about fixing it. So if you guys want some written instructions to go along with the video that we're doing today, look at the link below. We have everything all written up on a how-to, step by step. And we'll also attach some links for what we ended up using for supplies, which is pretty basic for this project. Good old-fashioned JB Weld. So we get the top seal ring on, snap ring on. We clean everything with brake cleaner. I just got through the process of mixing up the JB Weld and using my handy dandy giant splitter. We're going to work through JB Weld into every one of the So we've gone through and we've gone and spread the JB Weld all the way around on the splines, and now you can see me sliding that steering arm on. And the big kicker here is it has to be lined up right the first time. So you want that steering arm as close to perpendicular, aka 90 degrees from the spindle that the tire mounts onto. So that's what I'm messing around with. I realized after I started tightening it up that I need to make sure it's at 90 degrees before I tighten up and this thing welds itself on permanently. So after you get it set up so everything's lined up at the perfect 90 degrees, it's all about just making sure the splines set and mush that JB Weld down so they're all in the right place. If you don't get it tight, that whole steering spindle will have some slop where it can go up and down, and you're going to have unnecessary wear, probably burn out your thrust bearing that runs at the bottom of this assembly. So all you can see me do now is slowly working it down on, trying to get it as snug and perfect fit as possible. And the nice thing is now that I'm looking at this in retrospect, is it's well worth the time here. Even though it looks slow and tedious, it's well better, a lot more affordable than the $300 and something for a new spindle assembly on this side of this tractor. way better than where we started. It's gonna be exciting to be able to drive down the road without watching the tires sit there twitching, the steering arm sitting there shaking and giving you a heart attack. So that is how to do the poor man's way of tightening up your spindles. So the only thing you're out is the thrust bearing, which you should put in there on the bottom, but washer if you want to replace it, and JB Weld. So for a few bucks, I should get a few more 1,000 hours out of her. So for hang and a little bit this screw gets used, it should last a good long time. So we'll follow up with how well it holds up over this next year. And I'm pretty excited to say I think it's going to be doing pretty dang awesome. So I'm going to move on back to machining out for that steering arm.
So we made a little bit of progress further on the 1066 Hydro. We had finished putting the JB Weld in and putting the new thrust washer in and getting the spindles all set up and JB welded in place. And unfortunately the temperature hasn't got much warmer than about 18 degrees Fahrenheit over the last few days. So when I came out and tested how the little bit of JB Weld left in the cardboard on the floor was holding up, it was still soft and pliable, but frozen pretty much. So reading the label, it says drying times can be slowed down below 40 degrees. So what we reverted to is using a heat gun. I ran it for close to 4 hours on that spindle, making sure that's fully cured. And we're getting set up to run the heat gun on this spindle and do the same thing and get that fully exposed so it's hard in place.